Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and thank you for coming to the first Chinese media press conference for Mr. Kevin Green, the first mayor forever of Georges River Council. 尊敬的女士、先生们，下午好，欢迎并谢谢大家出席今天的第一次华文媒体新闻发布会，为 Kevin Green 首任乔治河市议会市长。First of all, I would like to introduce some of our guests today. 首先，我要向大家介绍一下我们今天的嘉宾 ，Mr. Chris Minns MP, Shadow Minister for Water. 州议员，影子水务部长柯明斯先生。Mr. Kevin Green, Mayor, Georges River Council. 乔治河市议会市长 Kevin Green 先生。Honorable Ernest Wong, MLC. 王国忠上议员先生。Mr. James Zhou, President of Labour Party, Hurstville Branch. 工党考试委党支部主席柯明斯州议员的顾问 James 周先生。Mr. David Dawson, President of Labour Party, Kogarah State Electorate Committee. 工党高嘉华州选区支部主席 David Dawson 先生。As we can see, we also have a lot of media here. Thank you for coming. 今天我们有许多的媒体到场，感谢 Southeast Net Australia 东南网 Australia New Express Media Group 澳洲新快报传媒集团 2OR 澳洲东方华语电台 BQ Weekly 澳新传媒集团 2CR 中文广播电台澳洲文传社 AUST 333 Sydney Today 今日悉尼，感谢你们的到来。
新报呢？还有新报。
还有新报。
新岛呢？
好了，新岛日报和新岛和新报，谢谢你们的到来。好 we also have many. We also have many representatives from different communities and outstanding young delegates here. We don't mention their name one by one now. Thank you for coming. 在场的还有许多社区这个代表和优秀青年代表，我们在这里就不一一的说名字了。一句话，感谢大家的到来。Now, let's welcome Mr. Chris Minns MP to make a speech. 下面有请柯明斯议员讲话。
Well, thank you very much. Thank you to Sonny, who's hosting us here today. Thank you, Sonny, for coming back and letting us use this wonderful room and facility. Really appreciate it. A good friend. Thank you very much. It's a real privilege to be here with the new mayor, the first mayor of Georges River Council, Kevin Green. And we thought because Hurstville is the most densely populated Chinese community in the entire country, it was a great opportunity to have a media conference with the Chinese media so we can have a direct dialogue between the residents of Hurstville and the greater Georges River community and the elected government that they've put in place to run this important city. Also, it was a great opportunity to talk about some of the priorities for St George Labor, and lastly, but perhaps most importantly, to make sure that the Chinese Australian community in St George knows that the Labor Party is listening to their views, will prioritise their concerns, and will always make sure that this community gets its fair share of services, and that government, regardless of the level, whether it's state, local or federal, under the Labor Party, we will fight for harmonious multicultural values and promote what we regard as the most important thing going for Australia in the next 50 years, and that is Australia's multicultural, diverse community. More locally, one of the things that I wanted to raise today, and one of the things I will be doing as the state member for Cogra and as a shadow minister, is work with our new mayor, Kevin Green, on issues of infrastructure. There are many high-rise developments going up in Hurstville, and they are taking up a lot of space up and around the train lines. But I have spoken to literally hundreds of people from the Chinese Australian community in Hurstville who are telling me they don't mind the development, but it must come with critical infrastructure. Hurstville Public School, down the road, is the biggest school in New South Wales. It is packed with people. There needs to be a new public school in Hurstville to accommodate the increase in population. The train at Hurstville is completely packed with people coming from the Sutherland Shire trying to make their way to the city. Many people, even pregnant ladies, are finding it difficult to get a seat on the train. Not to mention the fact that it's almost impossible to get a park in Hurstville, and the streets are well and truly gridlocked almost with traffic. So yes, growth in our population in the Hurstville area is important, but it must come with infrastructure from the New South Wales government. There must be a decision made by the Premier, by the state government, whoever is in power, whether it's Labor or Liberal, that you cannot have high-rise development without proper infrastructure, taxpayer dollars. And the truth of the matter is this Liberal government is prioritising other parts of Sydney. They are not prioritising this part of Sydney, and we have to stop that. We have to reverse that trend, and that's my opportunity and my obligation as the State Member of Parliament. Before I hand over to Kevin Green, I wanted to say a few more things. Firstly, we wanted to make this a regular event, a regular occurrence. These interactions between the St George Labor Party and members of the Chinese community and the Chinese community more broadly. And I can announce that in the coming months, we will have another of these press conferences with Labor leader Luke Foley coming out here to press the flesh, to meet business owners in the most densely populated Chinese part of New South Wales. He needs to, and he wants to hear firsthand from the Chinese community right here in Hurstville and St George. He's committed to that relationship, and it's my profound belief that he will be a fantastic Labor Premier of New South Wales. So without further ado, it's my job to hand over to the new and first Mayor of Georges River, Kevin Green.
Well, obviously, let me say also my thanks to Sonny and his long-standing business here in Hurstville, and we do appreciate his hospitality. I also thank each of you for coming and joining us here today. It's certainly a great honour for me to be the first Mayor of the new Georges River Council, and it's something that I take very seriously. And I'm pleased to say that one of, I believe, the strengths of my opportunity to be the leader in this community is the relationship that I've had for many years with Chris Minns, from whom we just heard. Chris is an outstanding worker on behalf of this community. He's also been a former councillor on Hurstville Council, but of course now is the member for Cogra, which takes in a significant part of Hurstville, and he's working very hard on all our behalf. And certainly he's working extremely hard on behalf of those Australian citizens who have a Chinese background. And that's why I'm pleased to be able to join you today to say that with Chris, I'm also concerned on behalf of the whole of our community with the amount of development that has been forced upon this area by the policies of the state government. We have to accept that, but we also don't have to accept that these developments come without the necessary infrastructure. A lot of these responsibilities are, of course, state government responsibilities, and that's why my council, and certainly I as the Mayor of the Council, will be working with Chris to make sure we continue to put the message to the state government that services such as rail, education, major roads need to be developed. They need to have enough infrastructure in place to ensure that those who come and live and be part of our community can do so in an environment that is pleasurable and enjoyable. It is not pleasurable to have to sit on a station and wait for a train that is crowded. It is not good for families to struggle to have an opportunity to enrol their child in one of the most important things that we can provide for children, and that's a quality education environment. There's some of the things we need to do. It is no fun sitting in long queues at lights because of gridlock and traffic. Certainly from a council perspective, we're looking to improve the streets that we have responsibility for. We're already looking at a car parking strategy, not just for Hurstville, but throughout the wider community. And these things are important. Can I finally say, one of the great opportunities that I feel that I have, being, as I say, able to work closely with Chris, is the opportunity to work with his advisor and now my advisor for the Chinese Australian community, and that's James. James, of course, is well known to many of you. He's also very well known throughout the Georges River area, certainly extremely well known within Hurstville, and most importantly, highly respected. That's why I'm pleased to say that when I'm looking for advice, particularly around issues related to Hurstville, most particularly issues that impact on Chinese Australians, I'll be looking to James for advice, because I, like so many others, and particularly Chris I know, respect his opinion, respect the knowledge that he brings, and I'll certainly be looking to him to provide me with the background so that we can make Hurstville, make Georges River a real beacon in the New South Wales community. And I'm pleased, as I say, to have James on board. And with that, I might now ask James if he'd like to say a few words. Thank you.
First, I would like to thank you for everyone to come here today. I really can't express how grateful I am to be appointed as the special advisor on the Chinese community affairs for the Mayor, Kevin Green, is a great honor. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. To me, Kevin is a legend of this area. Many years ago, when I was still an overseas student and lived in Hurstville, Kevin was a state member. I walked past in front of his office almost every day. I met him once on the street, and he smiled at me and said, "Good morning." I believe, I'm so sure, Kevin won't believe this unless he has a super brain same as Stephen Hawking. But for me, I was really surprised. Someone whose name I always saw on the newspaper or TV was such a nice and kind gentleman. And also at that time, I won't dream one day I will have the pleasure to work with him together. There's an old saying, with great honor comes great responsibility. I look forward to working hard with local Chinese communities, our mayor and our local MPs. I'm so pleased that our local Labour politicians are so committed to listening to the Chinese community and working together to make everyone feel proud of our area. I would also like to say special thank you to my mentor in the Labour Party, Mr. Chris Minns MP, member for Cobra. Thank you for you recommended me for this precious opportunity. And last but not least, I would also like to thank again for all the Chinese media here today. Without your continued support, we won't be able to serve the local Chinese communities successfully. So thank you.
It's my privilege actually to say a few words. First of all, I have to thank Chris and Kevin for inviting me to this media conference. And I just feel so excited to see Kevin now being the first mayor of Georges River Council. And as a matter of fact, I know Kevin for a long, long time. So he's not new. He's new in this local government. He's taking up a new role in this local government, but he's not new in the area because he has been state partner for 12 years. He has been minister for many years. So he knows the whole state and this area inside out. He knows everything about the community here, about the works that we'll be able to do to help to improve the whole environment here in Cockburn and Hurstville. And of course, I have to also congratulate James to be appointed as the advisor to the mayor, along with his role as advisor to Chris Means. So that's what I'm saying. I'm so proud to be with a Labour team that knows exactly what the community represents. A party that understands about ethnicity, about multiculturalism. I still remember the last time that we were here, actually the time when we had a media conference at the time when Polly Hanson came back to politics, and Labour Party was the first one and the only party who came out to condemn any racism, to condemn people to vote down 18C, to make sure that citizenship test is not going to jeopardize the way of migrants to become a citizen, to become recognized in Australia. So this is the legacy of our party, to support multiculturalism. This is the legacy of our party, to support the community. And I feel so excited to see a state member, a Labour state member, Chris Means, and a local mayor, Kevin Green, to be able to work together for the best benefit of the constituents and the people of in this area, and also to the ethnic communities, and of course to the Chinese community. So I'm pretty sure that we will have a lot of opportunity to talk to each other, to make sure that it doesn't matter the local issue or state issue, even federal issue, we will be able to help you around. I probably would like to say a few words in Chinese. If you don't mind, I would like actually also to incorporate what I've just said in regards to the regular meeting, so that everyone would understand what we're going to do in this area. 那么今天非常高兴啊，在这里呢，来到参加了我们今天的新闻发布会，这是为恭喜呢我们的George River Council， 就是那个佐治河的市议会的第一个市长。那么说起他呢，其实呢，我虽然说他是这一个市的他也是刚刚进入那个市议会，但是其实他本身在政治里边是走了很多年，比我们更前辈。他是在州政府里边，在我们工党执政的时候，在州政府做了12年，也做了5年的我们的那个部长。州部长，所以他对这里呢就非常的认识，对所有的不论从州的问题还是做市里问题，他都非常熟悉。所以呢，大家有什么问题的话，绝对可以找他。那么当然呢，我们工党呢，我相信呢，在这方面呢，我不用多说，因为我们工党呢，其实在这么多年来，对于维护我们少数民族的权益呢，我们一直是走在前头。也相信我可以这么说，也是我们澳大利亚所谓政治体系里边，我们说的政党里边，我们是唯一一个真正的是维护我们多元文化。那这个呢，历史呢我就不说了，因为说的话可能我说2个小时就不需要了啊。那么呢，在这里呢，刚刚呢 ，Chris Min 也提到了，其实有很多的问题呢，我相信呢，在 Chris Min 今天的这里呢，有一些现在在这里所发生的一些问题呢，他希望能够通过在州里边去把它可以解决的，也希望呢能够通过他跟市政府的合作呢，给予大家更好的一个这里生活环境。那么他也提出了，就是说在未来呢，我们会长期的在这里呢，我们会有跟传媒跟这里的华人社团的见面的机会，希望呢会从你们身上能够了解到，在这里你们感觉什么问题，我们需要去给你们去解决的。下一次的话，他会请到我们的反对党领袖 Luke Foley 一起来参与这样子的一个会议。所以希望呢，大家如果有什么问题的话，会透过 Kevin， 会透过Chris 来让我们知道，也可以。当然呢，有时候有大家语言上问题的话，会直接跟周建联系。那么所有的这一些问题的话，在州里边的话，我们都会一起合作去给予你们去解决问题。那么在这里再一次的祝贺我们 Kevin 呢，作为首任的市长，以后也相信以后呢跟大家见面机会也非常多，也希望大家有什么问题的话，尽量的去找他哦，尽量去找他，别让他空闲。好，谢谢大家 ，Thank you。时间好不好 ？So it's time for Q&A. So if any questions from any of the medias, please do present to us. Thank you.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Mr. Green. I'm with Australian News Express Media Group. My question is about an issue that I heard most in last year about Hurstville, that is the DA of religious worship place. And I heard that many residents argue that there should be a more strict regulations on the DA of such places because it's different from residential places. So do you have any comments on these topics? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We actually, there's a draft policy that Council's looking at the moment on places of worship, and the criteria around those places of worship, particularly in residential areas and the various residential areas. And as I say, we only had a briefing on that last week, and that's something that Council is looking at very seriously.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah, Lawrence?
And we understand that Cocker and Hurstville Council have been merged, right? So tell me how you can maintain the quality of service and also the level of council fees will be changed in the future.
Well, firstly, in regards to service, the administrator looked after the amalgamation of both councils in terms of service and the structure that have been put in place. And certainly he was very experienced and ensured that we do have levels of service standards that hopefully ensure that all residents' needs are catered for. There's a whole infrastructure around that. Staff levels have been maintained, particularly at the grassroots level, the service level, so people on the ground. That's part of it. Secondly, in terms of rating structure, the fees that people pay, they have been maintained for both councils as they were, and that is in for, I think, a period of 4 years. So that is maintained in the legislation. So yeah, we're looking to continue that. Might I just say, in terms of both the Hurstville and Cogra areas, as they used to be, and are now part of Georges River, I don't think you'd find a more homogenous community than Hurstville and Cogra. By that I mean people who are very similar understanding, similar beliefs, etc. They're very much part of a community, and you know, they're very close. So in that regard, it was fairly easy, I think, to bring both the administrative levels together. Might I say also, just in conclusion, that the size of the new council still makes us only a medium-sized council in terms of New South Wales and definitely in terms of Sydney. Okay?
Thank you.
Seen and heard in recent times that it's gone a bit beyond the point of no return. Yeah. So it's too difficult. You can't go back. Life's a bit like that. There's many things we'd like to have potentially changed in our lives, but we can't go back. We're about going forward. And as I've said publicly on a number of occasions, particularly when I was, and I think Chris Minns was at the function, I made the point that Hurstville and Cogra both have strong traditions, but it's those traditions on which the foundation of Georges River Council has now been laid, and we need to look forward because as a community, we should be about looking to, as I say, build on strong foundations, but most importantly, continue to provide improvements for all the local residents. So as far as I'm concerned, we're now Georges River Council, and as I've indicated previously, it's still only a medium-sized council in terms of relativity to other councils in Sydney and New South Wales.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I understand that now the DA approving authority rests with IHAB instead of the committee formed by the councillors, and a lot of people in the community is not aware of that. Could you explain just briefly, how it works now and what IHAB is about?
Outstanding question. You must have a background in local government. And what Clifton has said is absolutely correct. The state government has mandated, and I understand this was supported by the Labor Party, what is called independent hearing and assessment panels. So when, if people put in a DA for whatever, certainly up to $20 million at this stage for a DA, The council officers assess that. If there are no concerns, if it fits all the criteria under delegation, as has always been the case for whatever number of decades, that will go through. However, if there are a significant number of concerns raised by community members, local residents, etc., that will then be referred to what is known as this IHAP, Independent Hearing and Assessment Panel. This panel is made up of town planners, external experts who are judging it purely on the credibility of the application. And they will take into account any objections and they will make an independent assessment. So it's no longer with the councillors as such, it is with this panel of experts. Similarly, for projects currently more than $20 million, but soon to be increased to $30 million, there's what is known as the Southern Sydney Regional Panel, and they'll make assessment decisions based on, again, the work of independent experts. And there are 5 people on that panel, 2 of whom are councillors who are appointed, but then there are these 3 independent experts who make that assessment. So that has changed the way in which things are done, but certainly it does bring a great deal of independence into the process. Is that a fair explanation? Thank you. Any other questions? I think the number one question is, how good is Sunny's food? Well, we all know that's superb. So we're going to prove it right now.
Yeah, let's check it out.
And again, on behalf of, I think, Chris and Ernest and David and James and myself, sincere thanks for joining us today. And if at any time you'd like any of your question answered, it doesn't have to be in a formal press conference, please feel welcome to contact James. And if you just need an answer from me, he can't provide it, I certainly will. Thank you very much. Again, thank you. Seen and heard in recent times that it's gone a bit beyond the point of no return. So it's too difficult. You can't go back. Life's a bit like that. There's many things we'd like to have potentially changed in our lives, but we can't go back. We're about going forward. And as I've said publicly on a number of occasions, particularly when I was, and I think Chris Minns was at the function, I made the point that Percival and Cogra both have strong traditions, but it's those traditions on which the foundation of Georges River Council has now been laid, and we need to look forward because as a community we should be about looking to, as I say, build on strong foundations, but most importantly continue to provide improvements for all the local residents. So as far as I'm concerned, we're now Georges River Council, and as I've indicated previously, it's still only a medium-sized council in terms of relativity to other councils in Sydney and New South Wales.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I understand that now the DA approving authority rests with IHAP instead of the committee formed by the councillors, and a lot of people in the community is not aware of that. Could you explain just briefly, how it works now and what IHAP is about?
Outstanding question. You must have a background in local government. And what Clifton has said is absolutely correct. The state government has mandated, and I understand this was supported by the Labor Party, what is called independent hearing and assessment panels. So when, if people put in a DA for whatever, certainly up to $20 million at this stage for a DA, the council officers assess that. If there are no concerns, if it fits all the criteria under delegation, as has always been the case for whatever number of decades, that will go through. However, if there are a significant number of concerns raised by community members, local residents, etc., that will then be referred to what is known as this IHAP, Independent Hearing and Assessment Panel. This panel is made up of town planners, external experts who are judging it purely on the credibility of the application. And they will take into account any objections, and they will make an independent assessment. So it's no longer with the councillors as such, it is with this panel of experts. Similarly, for projects currently more than $20 million, but soon to be increased to $30 million, there's what is known as the Southern Sydney Regional Panel, and they'll make assessment decisions based on, again, the work of independent experts. And there are 5 people on that panel, 2 of whom are councillors who are appointed, but then there are these 3 independent experts who make that assessment. So that has changed the way in which things are done, but certainly it does bring a great deal of independence into the process. Is that a fair explanation? Thank you. Any other questions? I think the number one question is, how good is Sunny's food? Well, we all know that's good. So we're going to prove it right now.
Yeah, let's check it out.
And again, on behalf of, I think, Chris and Ernest and David and James and myself, sincere thanks for joining us today. And if at any time you'd like any of your question answered, it doesn't have to be in a formal press conference, please feel welcome to contact James. And if you just need an answer from me, he can't provide it, I certainly will. Thank you very much. Thank you.